The life of Robert Downey Jr. is one of the most extraordinary comeback stories in Hollywood history. To millions of Americans today, he is remembered as the brilliant and charismatic face of Iron Man, the actor who helped build the Marvel Universe into a global phenomenon. But long before the fame, success, and admiration, Robert Downey Jr.'s life was filled with addiction, self-destruction, emotional chaos, career collapse, and years where many people believed he would never recover. His story is not simply about becoming famous. It is about falling further than almost anyone expected, and somehow finding a way to rebuild everything. Robert Downey Jr. was born on April 4, 1965, in Manhattan, New York City, into an artistic but highly unconventional household. His father, Robert Downey Sr., was a filmmaker known for experimental movies and counterculture creativity, while his mother was an actress. From the beginning, Robert grew up surrounded by art, performance, and adult environments that exposed him to things most children never experience. His childhood was far from normal. While many children grow up with structure and emotional boundaries, Robert's upbringing was chaotic and unstable. His father struggled heavily with drug addiction and introduced him to marijuana when he was still a child. Years later, Robert Downey Jr. openly admitted that this moment shaped much of the darkness that would follow him throughout his life. Instead of experiencing a protected childhood, he entered adulthood emotionally far too early. Despite the instability around him, Robert showed exceptional talent from a young age. Acting came naturally to him. He had charisma, intelligence, quick humor, and emotional intensity that immediately stood out. But beneath that talent was a deep emotional emptiness that he often tried to escape through substances and reckless behavior. As a teenager, his parents divorced, adding even more instability to an already chaotic life. He moved between California and New York while struggling to fully connect with either place. Acting eventually became the one area where he felt truly alive and understood. By the 1980s, Robert Downey Jr. had entered Hollywood as one of the most promising young actors of his generation. He quickly gained attention for his sharp wit, unusual energy, and fearless performances. Movies like Less Than Zero showcased his emotional depth, but ironically, many of the troubled characters he portrayed reflected parts of his real life. At first, Hollywood loved him. He was intelligent, funny, charming, unpredictable, and naturally magnetic on screen. Critics praised his performances, and many believed he was destined to become one of America's greatest actors. His portrayal of Charlie Chaplin in Chaplin earned him an Academy Award nomination and confirmed what many already suspected. His talent was extraordinary. But while his professional reputation was rising, his personal life was collapsing. Drug addiction gradually took control of his life. What began in childhood evolved into years of destructive dependency involving multiple substances. Arrests, legal problems, failed rehabilitation attempts, and public scandals became constant parts of his story. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, Robert Downey Jr. repeatedly entered rehab, relapsed, disappeared from productions, and shocked Hollywood with increasingly self-destructive behavior. At one point, his situation became so severe that studios considered him almost impossible to insure for films. Directors and producers saw him as unreliable despite his talent. He was arrested multiple times and even spent time in jail. For many Americans watching from the outside, it felt tragic because the talent was obvious. People could see brilliance inside him, but they could also see someone slowly destroying himself. There were years when his career seemed completely finished. Hollywood can be unforgiving, especially when public scandals damage profitability. Many actors disappear forever after repeated legal problems and addiction struggles. Robert Downey Jr. came dangerously close to becoming another tragic cautionary tale of fame and self-destruction. But somewhere inside the chaos, he still wanted to survive. Over time, several factors began helping him rebuild his life. Support from close relationships, personal accountability, rehabilitation efforts, martial arts training, therapy, and a growing desire to change gradually shifted his direction. One of the most important figures in his recovery became his future wife, Susan Downey, who reportedly made it clear that he would need to choose between addiction and a future together. That ultimatum became a turning point. Recovery was not instant or perfect, but slowly Robert Downey Jr. began reclaiming control over his life. At first, Hollywood remained cautious. He started rebuilding through smaller roles and consistent professionalism. Every film completed successfully became proof that he was changing. Then came the opportunity that transformed everything. In 2008, Marvel Studios cast him as Tony Stark in Iron Man. At the time, the decision seemed risky to many executives. Robert Downey Jr.'s past was still controversial, and Marvel itself was far from the giant entertainment empire it would later become. But something unusual happened. The actor and the character merged perfectly. Tony Stark was brilliant, arrogant, damaged, funny, self-destructive, and searching for redemption. The same qualities many people associated with Robert Downey Jr. himself. The performance changed Hollywood history. Iron Man became a massive success and launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one of the biggest franchises in entertainment history. Suddenly, Robert Downey Jr. was no longer remembered mainly for addiction and arrests. He became the face of a new era of blockbuster cinema. For millions of Americans, his comeback felt deeply inspiring because it seemed almost impossible. A man who had once been considered unemployable had become one of the highest paid and most beloved actors in the world. As Marvel films expanded through the Avengers, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, Robert Downey Jr.'s emotional connection with audiences grew stronger. Tony Stark evolved from a selfish billionaire into a heroic figure willing to sacrifice himself for others. Many fans saw parallels between that character arc and Robert's own personal transformation. Outside of Marvel, he also became known for his intelligence, humor, and self-awareness during interviews. Unlike many celebrities who avoid discussing painful parts of their past, Robert Downey Jr. often spoke openly about addiction, regret, and recovery. That honesty made him feel human rather than untouchable. At the same time, he understood how close he had come to losing everything. In interviews, he sometimes reflected on prison, isolation, and emotional emptiness with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. He knew his comeback story could have easily ended differently. What makes Robert Downey Jr.'s journey so emotionally powerful in American culture is that it represents redemption in a very real and visible way. Many celebrity stories involve fame and success, but few involve public destruction followed by such an extraordinary return. He became proof that failure does not always have to be permanent. Even today, audiences remain fascinated by his life because his story feels deeply human. Behind the billion-dollar movies and worldwide fame is someone who battled addiction, shame, loneliness, and self-destruction for years before finally rebuilding himself piece by piece. And perhaps that is why so many people connected emotionally to Tony Stark's final moments in Avengers Endgame. For audiences, it wasn't just the ending of a superhero character. In many ways, it symbolized the completion of Robert Downey Jr.'s own transformation. From a man destroying himself to a man remembered as a hero by millions. Today, Robert Downey Jr. is seen not only as one of Hollywood's most talented actors, but also as one of its greatest comeback stories. His journey from addiction and collapse to global admiration continues inspiring people across America and around the world. Because in the end, his life was never really about perfection. It was about survival, redemption, and proving that even after years of darkness, a person can still find their way back into the light.